Well, hello everyone. This is Crystal Lynn coming to you from Southern California, wanting to have a more serious talk today. I've been having a hard time coming on. I've actually done about like 4 or 5 videos this last week, and I just didn't feel like the message was flowing through me. And I don't know if I feel like it's going to flow through me anymore today, but I just have such a passion and such a desire to talk about what's going on up in the sky and what's going on in our personal lives. I'm really fortunate because as I study astrology and as I get a chance to meet you guys and really do personal private readings, it is amazing when we're able to really look at ourselves. And I'm really concerned right now about what is going on in our world today in regards to mental health and depression. We know that this week there has been several public, celebrity suicides. Kate Spade was one of those suicides. If you have not looked that up, she has a really amazing story. And it just really broke my heart this week as I was learning more about her and reading about her and looking at her chart and what was going on up in the sky. I'm not going to do a full chart reading on her, but I will say there were some very specific things happening that can often really cloud our vision. And, in the Western world, I'm going to speak just as I know it, mental health issues are on the rise like never before. It's not anything new, but they're becoming more and more public. Even 20 years ago, mental health used to be, such a taboo. When you talked about it, people had siblings or people had family members, but you didn't discuss it. Nowadays, everybody's dealing with, this feeling of being completely mentally out of balance. And as an astrologer, which is where I'm coming from today, I want to talk about some specific energetic things that are happening that might be able to help us. I think that when we feel like something's happening to us, we feel like the victim. And that is a really scary place to be, because when you feel like something's happening to you, you don't know if you have any control. You don't know if it's ever going to stop. You don't know if you've done something wrong. You don't know, it's scary because you don't know how to perceive some of these heavy, intense shifts and changes that we're going through. We're down here on earth, so our bodies and our physical beings and our spiritual being, it's all being affected. It's all being, all being activated. And we're in a whole new time in history. So we're not in a place that we've ever been before. And so I want to try and talk a little bit about what's going on. I just did an amazing reading this morning. It was a one-on-one reading with somebody that was really experiencing much of what I'm talking about. And so it really inspired me to try to come on and talk about this. I know I'm beating around the bush, but it's hard to talk about these subjects. It really is, because there's a part of me, that still carries the stigma and even the privacy, and even in my own struggles recently of this up and down energy. The universe, as we speak, if we look into astrology, is extremely bipolar right now. Okay, that's the only way I know how to describe it. One of the things that's happening, and I've been talking about this for a really long time, and I'm probably going to continue to update it because it's always evolving, is the fact that never before in history have we been in a time where Neptune has been in Pisces, okay? This takes 165 years to get around the sun, and Neptune is in its homeland in Pisces. And right now it's at 16 degrees at the peak. This is a 14-year transit, so you guys can take a look back about 10 years, 2010, and start to project forward to 2025. We're right in the middle. And we have to understand that when we're looking at this energy, it rules the 12th house, which rules this private place, this place where we often don't talk to other people about. If we're having anxiety or if we're, feeling a certain way, it's not socially acceptable often to just say everything you feel, everything you think, because it takes time to process and to really put it out in a way that everybody can relate to it. But because of this energy, those things that are deep inside of us, those things that are really important to us, the things that we believe in, how we feel, the anxieties that we're all dealing with and struggling with, the feeling of hopelessness, the feeling of depression. These things have a lot to do with the way that this energy is coming in and affecting our being. Especially for those of you who have a lot of Pisces in your chart, sun, moon, rising, I've been saying it. It will affect all of us in different ways, especially the water signs. I want to make it very clear that the world right now is suffering a lot with the fact that the world as we've known it no longer exists. The conditioning that we all grew up with no longer applies. And yet our body, our physical body, keeps trying to capture something, keeps trying to hang on to an idea that makes sense in a world that it no longer makes sense. When we look at Neptune, we see the 12th house, we see the place and time in life when you're at the end of your life. Imagine being at the end of your life. And, the material items you've collected no longer mean anything. The money you have in the bank no longer really means anything. It's at that time where you look ahead and say, what have I done? Have I done the things that maybe God would be, I could stand before him. Many of us have that belief. Or maybe just feel good in our universal bodies that we did right. We learned the lessons we were here to learn. We start looking for all of those very profound answers. And what happens is we let go of all the things that seem to be meaningful. Pisces often will create what's like an illusion over our eyes. And so right now, many people are experiencing this illusion. Along with Saturn in Capricorn, retrograding, it is flattening out. When we look at Capricorn, we look at what we're building and who we are and this foundation that we have. When Saturn's there, it tears up that foundation. It's like an earthquake on our foundations, on our physical foundation, our financial foundations. In one spectrum, we have to look, we have to eat, we have to live in this world, we have to get up and go, we have to get out of bed. We can't sit here in Neptunian land, in La La land, and, just wait for the next, wave of energy to come through to lift us up. We have to somehow get up and face everyday life. But because Neptune is creating this illusion, it can also create a deep, deep depression or deep, deep despair where your body just feels like there's no reason. This is a true chemical experience. It can be very scary. And at the same time, if we can understand that part of this where you can't see into the future, where you can't grasp your 2018 goals and plans, it forces us to really come to a deep place inside of ourselves where we let go. Where we let go of expectations, where we let go of controlling the outcomes, where we let go of what it means to have always been the one everybody looks up to, where we no longer are maybe looked up to. For many people, this creates isolation. because they no longer feel like they have anything to contribute. They can no longer feel like, that they're a burden because they're going through this stage. Many of us are going through this detoxification of the last 50 years. I say that because we've gone through Chiron and Pisces, again, stuff I've been talking about, but necessary to understand even more today. There's some heavy energy that's really coming through right now. We're moving into a stage, or we've just come through a stage with Chiron and Pisces that many of us have gone through very, very intense psychological and emotional surging, bringing up almost life reviews where we could look back into the past. Again, these are situations that are, often confusing for people. What's going on with me? They get scared. They isolate. If they start talking about it, it sounds crazy. Some of the stuff we're dealing with does sound crazy, but when you look at Neptune, Neptune is crazy. Come on. Okay? When we look in the Western world, if you feel like somebody has come through from the other side, which is very Neptunian, to contact the other side or to feel our ancestors guiding us, or to feel spiritual energy coming through. Everybody has their beliefs. Is it, that spiritual energy? If you look at Western civilization, that's considered, a mental illness. And at the same time, when we are energetically bombarded, especially those of us who are empaths, which we have been, and not by mistake. I talk a lot about social media because how it affected me personally. I'm in social media with my business and my world and a part of my expression. It's a part of all of our worlds. To deny social media wouldn't be balanced either. But because anything new takes a long time to get balanced out, we've all been energetically bombarded by so many things in our worlds and in our families, in our lives, and in our friends, and in the daily trends of what's happening, the daily topics, that we really have lost ourselves. It's really been easy to lose ourselves. We're just kind of like any which way the wind blows, and then we wonder why we get up and we can't think straight right now. Neptune rules also this feeling of memory loss, of I can't find, how many times have you had a Pisces friends that can't find their keys and can't find their phones and, the shoes and their socks and the other shoe type of thing. That's so, kind of lost in this place of nebulousness. Many of us are feeling that way right now because this energy is so, so strong. And for a lot of us, and I'm talking to everybody here again, I know I'm talking about this specific energy and planet. This is kind of my calling right now, is to talk about this because I do have a lot of Pisces in my chart, and it's something I'm very familiar with. It's something I have to work through every day as well. And, it's been a rough year for me because Neptune in Pisces at 16 degrees is sitting on the moon in my chart in Pisces at 16 degrees. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's kind of scary. It's scary to have this much energy fueling my body and to know what to do with it. Because I'm so high vibrational in terms of feeling everybody. Feeling everything, that I almost, not almost, I've had to do a lot of isolation. But then when I look at it and I start to analyze it and I say, wait a minute, isolation, is this really about isolation? No, this is really about rebuilding, restructuring my whole entire life to say, hey, wait a minute. I am this person that is very sensitive. And I mentioned in a reading, and this is to those of you empaths out there, it's about time we stop prostituting our energy out to anybody and everyone, to the highest bidder. Because physically, the empaths right now, we're not doing too good physically, mentally, and emotionally. When I looked at Kate Spade's chart, she had the Sun and Mercury in Capricorn, Saturn going right over her chart. Jupiter in Pisces at like 10 degrees, so within a very, 5 degree, 6 degree orb of Neptune right now. She had Mars in Leo with the North Node triggering that huge, powerful energy. North Node can also blow things up, can blow out it feels like your nerve endings. So she was under intense questioning in her life. That feeling of that cloud going over you, you can't see through it, where you don't see a world that you can live in. She was a very kind soul. I did some research on her, and she was a brilliant woman, a designer, but had sold out a few years ago, got out of the system, got out of the limelight. I think they bought her company for like several $1 billion, but she isolated. She got alone. She didn't go to all the invitations. She didn't want to be in that world anymore. She saw social media as just rude and hateful. She began to drink. She began to self-medicate. Although she was seeing a therapist, she was being treated. Her family did know. She'd been battling with anxiety, extreme anxiety and depression for the last 5 years. Here we go with Neptune and Pisces bringing in this anxiety. And I just want to say, is anxiety, we need to look at what that is. We're all, they're wanting to give us all medication to knock that anxiety down. And when it's out of control, sometimes you need to knock it down. It's so out of control that your wires are crossed. But at the same time, I started to think, is anxiety just not our intuition that's gone out of control, that we've no longer listened to, that we can't listen to in the world that we live in? After I went through what I did this summer, where I really did just have a physical, mental, emotional breakdown, I had to really look at my life. I didn't have, leading up to it, even though I was trying to cry out and I was trying to tell my friends I was dealing with anxiety and I was trying to understand it myself, I got more and more withdrawn within inside of me, and I got more and more fearful. And these were things that were happening to me because of this anxiety spinning out of control. And it took that situation, which I thank God for, to knock my ass down for me to really look at my life and say to myself, who am I and what is it that I can really offer, and what type of quality of life do I really want to live in? And then I can say no, because if I don't say no, it's spiritual life or death for me at times. And I don't want to isolate. Neptune in Pisces at the 16th degree lays a very dangerous, negative influence in our world right now. And the remedy for this is to reach out right now to people that you can make a connection with. Whether it's your mother, whether it's your sister, whether it's your friend. Maybe you're not connected to family, but you've got that one friend that you can get on the phone and remember who you are right now. A lot of people with this kind of depression are feeling like they're not able to see a hopeful future, or they're hanging on to a future or a past that will never, or an ideal of a future that doesn't exist anymore. You have to understand we're moving into the age of Aquarius, and the rules don't apply, and many of us are stuck in the middle. Especially the Pluto and Virgo generation. That's where you're seeing this heavy hit depression, you guys. Kate Spade was 1963. because those of us born in the late 60s are going through our Chiron return in Aries right now. It's all about identity and who we are, and not who we are anymore based on what we were raised and who everybody else expects us to be. And so when you break away from the norms, you can get lost. You can get lost out here. And the energy is so up and down that it is hard to function. It is hard to be consistent. I, would love to come out every single day, but I'm battling and riding these energetic waves. It's like, all right, there's a moment, there's a pause. The ocean's calmed, I can come out. It's so amazing because my readings always come in perfectly for me when I'm right in the right place. And then I get a break, and then they come in. It's trusting the universe. And you guys, there's no other word that best describes the remedy for the Neptune and Pisces energy coming through but letting go. Letting go. I know that many of you are suffering out there because you are writing me, and I know, honest to God, what that feels like when your body and your mind is physically suffering, when you feel flattened, when you can't see even the sunshine coming up the next day. But there is help. There's many forms of help. It doesn't have to be, there's so many forms. If you need to see a doctor, see a doctor. If you need temporary time of getting treatment, get that. If you need to talk to someone, talk to someone. I want to offer my services as doing my readings. I'm able to help you understand on a very, very specific place on how to see yourself and how to help do what's best for you. When you go to therapy, you have to spend a long time telling them all what's going on so that they could figure it out. I do have to say what's so cool about an astrological reading is we can get right to it. I can see right there. You don't have to spend all that time explaining yourself. But what we do have to find is solutions and to focus on our calling and not to get sidetracked. And, what's going to be best for our, to eat, to exercise, to move. All of those things you don't feel like doing when you're depressed are so necessary. And so I'm here, you guys. I want to be of support to you in any way that I can. You can email me. You can go to my website, cowgirlastrologer.com, or email me at crystallyn68@gmail.com. If you are really going through something, do not suffer alone right now. Please reach out to somebody. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, you can email me, and I hope to hear from you. Have a nice day.